What's up everyone, Oscar here. So finally getting around to making this video to talk about my HTP Invertig 400 AC/DC TIG and stick welder. So this will end up being a multi-part video series. In this video I'm just going to talk about the machine, its specifications, its capabilities, what it comes with. You know, in a later video I'll end up cutting up some coupons and welding them up on DC and AC TIG and stick as well. But for now, let's just look at the machine and what you get. So what do you get for 6,995 bucks? So you get of course the machine, the quote unquote the power source as it's called, and it has a cart with an integrated smart cooler. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. We have flow meter regulator with the necessary hose and fittings. The basic package comes with a 12-foot long CK Worldwide Trimline 18 water-cooled TIG torch. The basic package also comes with a 12-foot long corded foot pedal and 15-foot long work clamp. That's 15 feet of 1/0 gauge wire. Now I did opt to pay a little bit extra. I paid extra so I can get the 25-foot long cord on the foot pedal, as well as the 25-foot long TIG torch lines. The cooler itself already comes shipped with coolant, so there's, I guess, roughly a gallon or so in there, but they do include one extra gallon as well. Let's see, it also comes with a consumable kit. Let me get a better shot of that. Okay, so here you can see the HTP consumable kit. This is a 17/18/26 series consumable kit. So you have your standard pink alumina cups, number 5, number 6, number 7, and number 8. You have standard collet bodies, and you have standard collets. You get a short back cap. Now you also get 8 tungstens. You have 4 different sizes in 2 different alloys. So you have a 0.040, you have 1/16, you have 3/32, and a 1/8 inch diameter tungsten. You have 4 in 1.5% lanthanated, and you also get another 4 in 2% serrated. So that's the kit that it comes with. So it's pretty much good to go. And you also get an HTP trucker cap and some stickers, if I remember correctly. So that's all included in there. So let's see. Let me go back to the water cooler. Right, so here's a look at the smart water cooler that this package comes with. So this cooler it connects to the back of the machine, not just for power, but there's also like data communication involved. So the way it works is when you turn on the machine, and if the cooler itself is in the on position, the pump and fan don't automatically turn on the way most other coolers on the market do. So it's an on-demand style cooler. So once you initiate an arc, then the pump and the fan, then they start going. Once it cools down, then it actually shuts off for you. So if I had to guess, there's probably a temperature sensor somewhere in there, as well as a pressure sensor. So once there's no more cooling to do, will just turn off the pump and the fan. Also, if there's a problem with the cooling, for example, the pressure is not what it needs to be, the machine, the welder, will actually shut off the welding arc to prevent damage to the power cable going to your TIG torch. So it has that as added protection as well. So this runs straight off of the machine. It's a pretty advanced cooler. I mean, it's not just a power switch that's hooked up to the pump and the fan. It actually has a PCB board inside there with, if I remember correctly, there's 2 transformers. So it's a single phase unit, and it'll auto configure itself to whatever input power you're giving the machine. It doesn't matter if it's single or 3 phase. So it'll configure itself. So it works very nicely with the actual welder. Now let's look at the electrical specifications on the welder itself. So here we have the electrical spec sticker on the machine. So this runs on either single phase 230 volt input power, but it can also run on 3-phase input power. Let's look at the single phase side. So 230 volt is the rated voltage. The operating range anywhere from 4 to 350 amps, and that comes at 35% duty cycle for the 350 amps. On stick welding, it's limited to 260 amps at 35% duty cycle. The max inrush current is right at 50 amps, so all you need is a standard NEMA 6-50 plug receptacle. Okay. Let's look at the 3-phase side. So it'll run on 3-phase anywhere from 230 up to 500 volts. When you're on 3-phase, now you can get the full 400 amps of TIG welding amperage at 30% duty cycle. The stick welding side, it goes up from 260 to 300 amps at 35% duty cycle. As far as the max inrush current, on 3-phase 230 volts, 36 amps. If you have 3-phase higher than that, then your current demand is obviously lower. So as far as 3-phase input power, you're looking at its peak, you're looking at 14,500 watts that this machine needs, 14.5 kilowatts. So if you're looking to use this on a phase converter, if I remember correctly, HTP's recommendation is bare minimum a 30 horsepower phase converter. Again, the machine is going to need about 19 and a quarter, so the bare minimum would be about 30, but I think ideally most phase converter companies, they suggest doubling whatever your horsepower requirements are. So in this case, 19 and a quarter, if you double that, you're looking at roughly 40 horsepower for the phase converter. That way, at the machine's peak, you're running at half the capacity of the phase converter. All right, let's look at the actual machine screen and the settings that are available. Okay, so let's look at the front of the machine and the screen and the settings that we have available for us. Right, so we have our voltage indicator, we have our main welding amperage indicator. We have 5 modes to choose from. We have stick welding, and then we have 4 TIG modes. We have 2T, 4T, TIG spot, and TIG reset. We have our amperage indicator. Right now it's showing 4 amps, even though this shows 95, because I have the foot pedal plugged in. This is the indicator that you have a remote control, either foot pedal or a slider connected to the machine. So obviously we're in stick welding, so it's indicating electrode, and it's on DC polarity. We have a single phase power coming into the machine. This is our main settings. We have the AC mode settings and we have the pulse mode settings. So let's look at the main settings here. So we have our hot start. You can adjust hot start from 0 all the way to 50% in increments of 1%. You can select to change the arc force. This goes from 0 to 500%. I believe that may be an arbitrary range as far as being from 0 to 500. Whether or not that's the case, still the adjustability is there. Okay, let's go back home. AC mode, we can activate AC mode right here. So we have some settings available. We have frequency. You can press this button that represents the next option here. Balance and the asymmetric AC amplitude, in other words, the independent amplitude control. Let's go back to frequency. So AC stick welding. Traditional AC transformer machines would be at 60 hertz. Okay. Now you can widen up the arc cone. You can decrease the frequency and it'll widen up the arc cone. You can go down to 20 hertz. As far as an upper limit, you can go up to 400 hertz as long as your main welding amperage is anywhere from 4 to 99 amps. And the reason I say that is because there's a threshold that's pre-programmed into the machine right at 100 hertz. So right now on the main screen you can see it's at 400 hertz on AC stick welding. If you cross that 100 amp threshold, the machine knocks it back down to 200 hertz. See that? And you can't go higher than that. You can't go higher once it's at 100 amps or higher. HTP says that the reasoning is, generally speaking, once you're at 100 amps or higher, you're generally looking to use more heat and not less. And too high of an AC frequency starts to decrease that heat output. The more zero crossings you have, all those little bits of lost heat, they start to add up when your AC frequency is really high. So that's the reasoning behind why the machine is set up that way from the factory in Italy. Okay. You can adjust your balance. Not too useful here for stick welding, but it is adjustable. Balance can go from 10 to 90% in 1% increments. You can also adjust your asymmetric AC, meaning your independent amplitude control. It's not too useful for AC stick welding. It's more of an AC TIG feature, but nonetheless, it is available, and it does work as far as adjustability. The way it works on HTP machines, it's always a reduction. So right now, and I'll show you on the next screen how right now it's set to electrode positive. So this movement that I'm doing, this reduction that you can see, it's less than 100%, means that it's reducing the electrode positive. So it always works as a reduction. You tell the machine which polarity you want to adjust, and then you reduce it relative to the other one. So I'll show you that on the next screen. Right now it's set to equal amplitude, so it would be 100 amps on each half, on the electrode negative and electrode positive. So see on this next screen, you can see how you can set the asymmetric setting here. Right now it's set to EP. You can change it. I can change it to EN. If I go back home, go back into the AC mode, go back into the asymmetric AC. Now electrode negative is blinking. So now I can reduce this one. It's always a reduction. So this is a reduction relative to the main welding amperage. You can go down to 10, or you could just leave it at 100, where it would be equal to the other half of the AC wave. You have an AC easy, you have a soft AC and a triangular AC. Again, not too useful for AC stick welding, although they can be activated if you want them to, but they're more of an AC TIG feature. Okay, so let's go back to DC. There we go. So now we're on DC. Let's look at the pulse mode options. Turn pulse on. Okay, so you have a pulses per second, your frequency, your hertz, 0.4 hertz. That's a very long pulse period, and you can tighten up that pulse period up to 5 hertz. You can adjust your peak time during that pulse period. That's at the peak main welding amperage, anywhere from 10% to 90% of that period. So this is with respect to time. Then you have your background amps. So when the pulse dips down to the background amps, you can dictate how low you want that amperage to go. Generally speaking, on 50% on either one of those is a good all-round setting. On the Invertig 221 that also has pulse, and the Inverarc 200 TLP, they're both already preset at 50% peak time and 50% background. If you set either one too low, you're gonna have arc stability issues. So you don't want them too low, you don't want them too high either. Then it kind of negates the purpose of having the quickly solidifying puddle. So generally speaking, for peak time, anywhere from 40 to 60% is good. The background amps, anywhere from 40 to 60%. That's my personal preference, but they're fully adjustable from 10 to 90% on each one. Okay, so we can turn pulse back off. So those are our settings available. Let's go into 2T TIG mode. Okay, so now we're in TIG 2T. We have high frequency on. It's on DC polarity. We have a remote foot pedal connected. And our main welding amperage is 62. 20 amps is the minimum that's stated here. We'll talk about them in a little bit. That's adjustable. So on our main settings, we have our pre-flow, anywhere from 0.1 to 5 seconds. We have our upslope, not utilized when you're using the foot pedal. You control the upslope when you're ramping up on the foot pedal. So this is deactivated. You can't change it. It just stays at 0.1. Now your downslope, even though there's a foot pedal connected, you do have a downslope available for you. Now you can deactivate it and leave it at 0.1, or you could give it some other value. So the way this works is, if you let up off the foot pedal too quickly, this will downslope the arc for you to perhaps prevent like a fisheye at the end of the weld, which could possibly lead to a crater crack. So if you just lift off really fast, like as fast as you can, the machine will actually downslope for you. So you could use it, I guess, as a safety net if you really want to, or purposely. You can set it up to 10 seconds, so it'll downslope for you, and then it'll extinguish the arc and go into your post flow. So your post flow from 0.1 seconds all the way to, this is a good one, 99.9 seconds if you're doing a highly reactive metal, maybe some titanium. 99.9 seconds. There we go. And you can turn high frequency off if you want to. Let's go into the other settings here. So we have hot start and start amps. So similar to stick welding, you can control the hot start on TIG. Not all machines have this. And you can actually disable it as well. So if you set it to off, there will be no hot start, and the machine will attempt to light the arc at whatever you set it to. So here it's off. Here the max is 58, controlled by the foot pedal. So whatever your foot pedal is registering, that's what it's going to try to light off the electrode with. Or you can give it a hot start to help initiate the arc, especially if you're using a larger tungsten than you would normally use. Say for a given amperage, say you have a 1/8 tungsten and you want to be welding at 30-40 amps or such, you can probably still get a good arc initiation. You just have to find a nice sweet spot for the hot start, just enough where it lights it off, and it can take it from there. So this goes from off to 4 to 130 amps. Your start amps. So start amps, I prefer to call it more like minimum amps. Right now it's set to 20. Now you can drop it all the way down to 4. If you want to taper all the way down to 4 amps with the foot pedal or whatever, you can. Not necessarily all the time. If you're welding thick steel, the pedal may solidify when you're well above 4 amps, so you can set the minimum amperage, and that way you have a better range of adjustability. Say you have the machine set to 350 amps here. So if you have your start amps at 60, so the pedal will start at 60 and then it'll finish off at whatever amperage you have set here. So you have that better resolution, versus if you start at 4, then the pedal has to try to take over from 4 all the way to whatever your main welding amperage is. So you can select that minimum amperage anywhere from 4 to 100 amps. So again, that could provide extra resolution on the foot pedal or the slider remote control. And then here you can turn the water cooler on or off. You can change the one-phase max amperage from 300 to 350 for TIG if you wanted to, and you can restore the factory defaults. Okay, so those are the main settings for TIG 2T. Let's go into the AC TIG. So what's different here compared to stick welding? Well, not much. The same measurements are valid here. 20 to 400 if you're under, if you're at anywhere from 4 to 99 amps. Okay, your balance and your asymmetric set, your independent amplitude control. Now here's where the other options come into play. So AC easy. If you set it to on, change, green check mark. If you set it to on, it basically locks out the AC parameters for general AC TIG welding. So here it's indicated AC easy. It sets your AC frequency to 100 Hertz and your balance to 75. Let's go check those out. Oops. Here we go. Your frequency is 100 Hertz. It's green. It's locked out. Can't change it. Your balance is 75. It's locked out. Can't change it. Your asymmetric amplitude, it's balanced, equal to 100% on each half of the waveform with respect to the current. Let's also look at your hot start. It locks it at 100 amps. So presumably this is so you can get a nice crisp arc start when you're doing just general AC TIG welding. Your start amps. Your start amps meaning your minimum amperage, and you can still adjust that. So those are the settings that are locked out for AC easy. So let's go and change that back to off. Modify, select. You can turn soft AC on or off. So that's basically a soft square wave. Triangular AC. You can select it on or off, mainly for TIG welding thin aluminum. You get a high peak amperage with a low average input. Oops. And here's where you can also change your asymmetric independent amplitude setting. You can select which one you want to reduce. Remember, it's always a reduction. Select which one you want to reduce with respect to the other. Let's go out of let's turn DC back on. Actually, let's go to pulse mode. Let's turn pulse on. So pulsing between stick welding and TIG welding, now you can go up to, on DC, 999 Hertz as opposed to just 5 Hertz on stick welding. Peak time, same as stick welding, 10 to 90%. Background amps, same as stick welding, 10 to 90%. And we can turn pulse off. Let's leave it on so we can look at the AC side of things. Let's turn AC on and then look at pulse. The only difference is that on AC TIG welding, it's limited to 10 Hertz. From 0.4 to 10 Hertz. All the other parameters stay the same. Okay, so now we can look at the other modes, which is 4T, essentially the same as any 4T on any other TIG machine. Right now the remote control indicator is blinking. Normally you use 4T with a momentary on-off switch. So here it's telling you that the remote control pedal is hooked up, or slider. It'll still work. It's not ideal, but you know it'll still work. So you have your pre-gas, same as before, from 0.1 to 5 seconds. Initial amps, so when you hold the switch down, and then it goes to your initial amps, 50% of whatever your main welding amperage is. You let go, and it'll slope up to your main welding amperage, and it'll take this long. You can set it from 0.1 to 10 seconds. You can decide. And then you can press and hold to slope down. So the slope down, again, from 0.1 to 10 seconds. So if you press and hold, it'll go down to your final amperage. Right now it's set to 50%. Anywhere from 10 to 90% of your main welding amperage. So you press and hold, and it'll slope down to that amperage, and it'll stay at that amperage until you let go, and then it'll finally go into your post flow. 0.1 seconds, again, up to 99.9 seconds. And the hot start and the start amps are also available to configure it. Okay. Turn those off. Spot mode, you can do spot welding. Your available options are your pre-gas, again, from 0.1 to 5 seconds. Your spot time, your main welding time, from 0.1 to 10 seconds. Again, this is predominantly used with a torch mounted momentary on-off switch. And you have your post gas, again from 0.1 seconds up to 99.9. We'll leave it at that. Hot start amps still available. Okay. And finally the TIG Reset. Okay, so this is a variation of 4T. And again, it's telling you that your remote control foot pedal or slider is hooked up, which again, it'll still work, but it's typically used with the momentary on-off switch. So how could this be useful? Well, let's look at that little representative waveform, I guess you call it. So you have your pre-gas, so you're pressing the button. Pre-gas flows for this amount of time, whatever you set it to. It'll go to your initial amps of, in this case, it's 50%, but of course it's adjustable from 10 to 90. So this percentage of your main welding amperage, it'll go to this much, and it'll stay there, and then you let go and it'll ramp up. It'll take this long to slope up onto your main welding current, which is set at the machine. But there's also this little dip here, you see. So here you've already let go of that switch and you're at, say for example 58 amps. You can adjust your reset amperage anywhere from 10 to 90%. So if you momentarily hit that that on-off switch, it'll dip down to this percentage. So you can have the amperage drop, and you're still welding. It just happens to drop to a lower value. So this can help you cool the puddle, help it solidify while maybe you need to reposition or something. And then you can just bump it again, and then you're back up to your main welding amperage. And you can just keep doing that back and forth as many times as you need to. Once you're ready to extinguish the arc, then you can go into the slope down, which you can set from 0.1 to 10 seconds. Press and hold and it'll slope down. It'll slope down all the way down to your final amps. You set that percentage from 10 to 90%. It will stay there until you let go, and it'll go into your post flow anywhere from 0.1 to, again, 99.9 seconds. So it's just a little variation of 4T. You have that extra added control while you're welding. You can dip down to a lower welding amperage, and then you can go back, and you can go drop it down and you go back and forth. So hot start still available, start amps also available, and the other settings as well. Okay, so there you have it. Again, this is not meant to be an instructional video. I'll get some other videos with some coupons going and just weld up some parts, some arc shots. This is just meant to introduce you to the machine so you can see the screens and how to adjust things. And if I miss anything, of course, just let me know, and I can review things. All right, so thanks for watching. Just let me know if you have any questions.